MLive.com at the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. after a pair of Michigan teams started their Big Ten tournaments with wins. Started with Michigan, which had the most eventful trek here, obviously, which is the story of the day. But it ended well for them with a convincing win over Illinois. I mean, how do you kind of process this last 24 hours?
It's been really hard to kind of frame, what's the most important thing here?
Right.
Obviously, players' safety and the fact that they got out of that thing unscathed. I mean, this whole thing could have been very different. Could have been tragically different. That plane skidded the length of 4 football fields, about 100 yards ahead of where it actually came to a stop. There was a ravine, and you don't want to think what could have happened, but a lot of stuff could have happened. And with that as kind of this other story going on, no one really had any idea of what was going to happen today. Not only getting here, but were they going to walk out there and look kind of in a daze, or what would actually happen? And it's the opposite. I mean, they were as zeroed in and focused. I think it really spoke to the seniors' leadership of Derek Walton and Zach Irvin. That team was ready to play, and they kind of unleashed the fury of a wild 24 hours on poor Illinois, which didn't even look like it wanted to be here in the first place.
Right. It kind of went the other way. You wondered how they were going to come out. It's almost like, let's just get off the bus and go play. Right. And that seemed to be the best remedy for them, just start playing basketball. I think if they would have sat around and thought about it a little bit more today, maybe it would have gone the other way. Michigan State,
the exhaustion probably would have caught up with them. No
Michigan
one really
State,
slept.
For the record, Tom Izzo said, "Hey, I was willing to give them the late game. I think switching these games was something they thought about, but at the end of the day, it sounds like it was Michigan's call. They wanted to get out there and play."
Yeah, I don't know, what would they have gotten out of those 2 hours? You go to the hotel and you drop off your bags. I thought it actually kind of worked out nicely. And I was thinking this late last night that, okay, you treat it as a business trip. You get on that plane at 6 a.m. and at 6 a.m. it's game day.
Yep.
You're not traveling to a basketball game. You are going to a basketball game.
And I think people forget, you play AAU ball, you play high school, you do stuff like that all the time. I mean, it's different. It's different. It's different at this level because you obviously always traveled the day before. But I think for a lot of these kids, they can do it.
Yeah, and there's a part of embracing it.
Right.
And that was something that talking to these guys, that set in where they said, this is the next challenge of our toughness. And this whole conversation goes all the way back to early January. And the Maverick Morgan quote, and the blue collar, and the white collar, and this and that. And, people just basically questioning the intestinal fortitude of this team. And they used that. They said, this is to test our toughness. And, let's go prove something to ourselves and to everyone else. And I think they certainly did so.
I think Michigan State proved something today a little bit. Probably their most impressive win they've had in a while. I didn't think Penn State came out well, but that doesn't take anything from Michigan State. They talked a lot about coming out defensive intensity. You had to wonder how all these freshmen would respond to a postseason. Tom Izzo drills just one and done. You have to have a different mentality. And he was pleased with how they looked. And I thought the bigger difference was execution-wise. I thought they were as crisp as I've seen them this year, just executing those sets. They don't look nearly like they did a couple weeks ago, being lost in there. I thought that they got guys open, they took good shots. And really, there wasn't anything to complain about. I think the DC traffic was the only thing Tom Izzo had to complain about afterwards. He can usually find one or two things. But, I mean, overall, really, for Michigan State, obviously, he takes the white elephant, to use Tom Izzo's term, out of the room. And I thought they were in earlier, but they might have been a little nervous on Selection Sunday. I think now they're smooth sailing there.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I would ask you this, because, haven't watched the team all year. Of late, one of my kind of concerns for State has been, they haven't looked like an NCAA tournament team very much recently, in the very recent past. And, that's something where even this time of year, you can talk about bubbles and whatever and all this stuff, but you can tell a team that is ready and belongs in the NCAA tournament. You see a lot of teams that just bottom out at the end, and they're going to lose in a first-round game. Tom Izzo doesn't go into March to make the tournament. He goes
No.
into March to go win tournament games. So, did you see a team that looked like a tournament team?
I did see one. My caveat is they look like a tournament team against a very non-tournament team.
That is
Penn
correct.
State.
Yes.
If they can look like that against Minnesota tomorrow, or if they advance to Saturday, if they keep looking like that, then I'm gonna say, hey, this is a team that could maybe go on a run here.
Right.
Obviously, they did what they needed to do. They look good, but I need to see them do it against a tournament level team. But I think a big step today was them doing it away from home. We haven't seen, the performances they've had that are like that. They've had a couple of them, but they've all been at home, and I think they came here, you wrote about this week, with the question being, can they do it on a neutral court? And I think that was one of the big questions of today.
Yeah, they won one game away from Breslin in January and February. That's not good, because there's no games at Breslin in March, so now, not to look too far ahead, but there's a possible intersection happening here where these two could collide in the semifinals. Obviously, a lot of work to be done. Michigan State has to take out Minnesota. Michigan has to take out Purdue.
Michigan State beat Minnesota twice in our season. Michigan beat.
Correct.
Not to say it won't happen again, but I think these two both have fairly manageable, for being lower seeds, have fairly manageable paths to Saturday.
They do, and I don't think either opponent wants anything to do with the team that they're playing. Like, Purdue wants nothing to do with this Michigan team
They
right
would
now.
much rather have Michigan State.
100%. And, Minnesota, Michigan State, they beat them twice and beat them
pretty well.
Really, and kind of without Miles Bridges being Miles Bridges. So that's a situation. They have to go in and watch game film saying that this is a different team that we're playing. Like, when Michigan and Purdue study film, that game was 2 weeks ago. Like, those games versus Minnesota, for me at least, those feel like they were a year ago.
Thomas said he doesn't know what their uniforms look like anymore.
Right. So we'll see. Obviously, both have to get through Saturday, but it would be neat. It would certainly be neat if they could get a rubber match out of this. Obviously, Michigan and Michigan State split the season series, but we'll see. I'm hoping for it. Am I allowed to hope for it? I'm not allowed to root for anybody, but I would like to see these two play again.
I root for not covering Sunday, the championship game into that, so we won't have that, so yes, you can root.
Fair. All right. Very good. Well, that'll do it for today. We will be back tomorrow afternoon, obviously, to tell you where and when and what is next for both of these teams. And that'll do it for Kyle. I am Brendan. As always, thanks for watching.